Good morning, everybody. It's Krista Madrid with Cafeconchrista, and I am so pleased to introduce you to Julie Patrick. Hey, Julie.
Hey, Krista. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing really well. Really well.
I'm happy to hear it. Before I start diving into my three big questions, I just want people to know that Julie is one of my Wonder Women. She has been by far, hands down, the best manager, boss I've ever had in my life. And I'll never forget that about Julie. Boy, I'm about to tear up just talking about that.
Stop, I brought napkins in case I get...
I got the box of tissue. It's within reach. But Julie gave me chances where people wouldn't give me chances, and not only did that help me flourish, but because no one else would give me those opportunities, it made me rise to the occasion and exceed the occasion. And Julie, because of that, it also boosted my confidence in myself. And I had the bravery years after you left our workplace together. I had the bravery to step out and jump into my own world. So, you know, not only did you help me in the workplace, but you really helped me internally here, and I'm so grateful to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, it's where I work now, we have this on our team site, and we do a little thing about who we are. And we're supposed to pick a 3-word motto or a 3-word thing that describes us and our goals and whatever. And mine hasn't changed since the day I started there 7 years ago. In fact, it hasn't changed really since I started my professional career. And my 3 words were to make a difference. So I'm getting teary again. When you come back and share that with me, it makes me feel so good. It makes me know that all that hard work was worth it. And I just want to say about you, Krista, I didn't give you the opportunity, you took it. Everybody, like I laid it out there and you grasped it and ran with it. And when you left and decided to pursue your own happiness and your own future, I was so equally inspired by you.
Thank you.
I was so proud of you, and I tell so many people about you. And I'm like, you know, because we had been in the industry together off and on throughout the years, doing the same type of work for a long time. And when you took that really brave step to get out of that comfort zone that we just knew and could do, you know, with relative ease, and you took on something so challenging and so different and rewarding, it was so inspiring to see that we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and nobody picks our destiny for us.
Well, you're exactly right. Nobody picks it, because they won't pick anything good for us. They'll hold us down if we let them pick it.
Yeah, you know, or they pick what they think is best or what's best for them. And no, you took that opportunity and you ran with it. So I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was either taking the opportunity and running with it or committing homicide and being out in a few years.
We're into that, you know. It's like, well, I can either do this for 50 years, for another, 30 to 50 years, or I could commit homicide and be out in 10, maybe. Yeah. So which is what?
Maybe
no, I do in that
behavior.
Yeah, in that particular environment, I think you did pick the right option, though.
Oh, thank you. Oh, let's put that little dark joke, because there's a minor touch of truth to it, but it is my little dark joke. I do tell people that, and they don't know how to look at me sometimes, but it's funny. Let's hop into it. The first thing I want people to know is, who is Julie Patrick? When you wake up and you look in the mirror, who are you?
I'm a hot mess, Krista. It's funny. And you know what? I embrace it. I tell people I'm perfectly imperfect. I am a conundrum. I am, you wake up in the mirror and every day it's something different. And I think that's just part of being a person in today's society. But it's a lot with women and with mothers and people who are out in the workforce, or even stay-at-home moms, people who are running households and families. every day is different. Every day is challenging. And I actually enjoy that. Like if we were the same every day, we got up and looked in the mirror and it was the same, I don't know that I'd want to get up and look in the mirror anymore. So I just turned 50 and I celebrated and embraced it full-heartedly. People ask me, oh, what's it like to be half a century old? And I'm like, are you kidding? I never thought I'd get here. So I'm thrilled. I embrace every birthday because I was a wild child. I dropped out of high school. I was defiant and all of those things that we never want our little girls to be. I was challenging and just headstrong, stubborn. A lot of things I've done in my life, I've done because people told me I couldn't do it, not because I even wanted to do it. I was like, oh yeah, step aside and watch. I was that hold my beer kind of person. Let me do this for you.
Right.
It works to my advantage, but it also, kind of held me back a little bit at times because you start taking on every challenge and you're easy to trigger. And so it took a lot to learn to overcome that. But I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a cousin, a granddaughter. I am super political, which I really try not to be because it gets my blood pressure up. But I'm super political. I'm passionate about equality and helping the underdog, and I'm a sucker for an underdog story, because I myself was an underdog, so it's my favorite. A hard luck story is the best story in my mind. I have two amazing boys. They're going to kill me for talking about them, but my oldest son, Steven, is 27, and he just graduated with his second degree. He has a degree in business and a degree in art. And I'm so proud of him because he comes from parents who didn't even graduate high school, let alone go on to college. And so he's the first of us for doing that. And I'm just oh yeah, yes, for sure. And then my younger son, Tyler's 15, and he's nobody's fool. Boy, this kid, Christa, he lives life on his own terms. He's way more like me than I would like him to be. He's stubborn, he's headstrong, he's independent, he's super smart. I'm really blessed to have the boys that I have. And then my husband, Shane, who's crazy supportive, and he's been a stay-at-home dad for the last 17 years, taking care of the boys so that I could go out and live my dream and have my career and all of those things. So it's been just wonderful. I guess that's a long answer to your question, but yeah, that's who I am. I'm just really complicated and yet simple at the same time.
That's the best though, is people, there are the people who thrive on drama, and then there are people who just thrive on chaos. I'm kind of a chaos person. I can thrive on drama, but who can't? But, it helps us get through the day. I don't know about you, Julie, but if somebody tied your hands to your chair and said, you can do everything, voice commanding, I don't know that you could do it. You're a mover, you're a shaker. And if they took just one element away from you, that would change who Julie is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm at a point in my life where I love myself. Like, it takes a lot, and I think women struggle with this the most. It took me a lot of years to the point where I realized I'm enough. I don't have to be all things to all people. I grew up I had a lot of really strong women in my life. I come from a long line of really strong, stubborn women. And I always wanted to be them. I wanted to be my grandma Wilma, my Aunt Z. I wanted to be Wonder Woman. I wanted to be all of these really amazing women. And I realized that that's not what they would want from me. And I was never going to be them. And I was going to just make myself sick trying to emulate them and be them. And that the best way to honor them was to just be the best me I could be. And I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be strong in every situation. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to just be me, and that was the best way to honor them and all of the strong women who came before me. And it's one of the things that as I'm older now, I'm trying to share with my nieces and my nephews as well. Like, just be who you are. You don't have to be like anybody. Just be the best you. And I wish I had been given that advice at a young age. And although I probably would have thrown it out the window because that's who I was. But
that's who all of us were at that age. You know, you can't tell us what to do. We're like, right, we're going to go discover this mountain on our own.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, that's awesome. I think you're all of that. The Wonder Woman, the perfect, the imperfect. I think you're all of that. And I think the sooner that people, any people, the sooner in life that we learn to embrace ourselves, the sooner we can become all these things we're seeking out so hard to be, because that's when it actually happens. Well, let's get on to the next question. What hurdles, Julie? You know, I've known you, you know, like you said, in and out of pockets of telecom throughout the years, but you've always risen, and you've always, you know, I just love watching your journey. You have so many things about your journey, whether it's a personal, an internal, an external, a professional. In your eyes, what is the biggest hurdle that you had to go through to get where you are today? Or to become who Julie is today?
Yeah, so, you know, I have a lot of challenges in life, and we all do. And like, I could turn this into an hours-long therapy session, but you know, I mean, I grew up well below the poverty line. My family, my mom struggled to raise 3 kids. We were dirt poor. We didn't have a strong education. I never went on to college. I dropped out of high school because I knew better than everybody else. So that in and of itself was a challenge. My lack of formal education, and being a woman in the telecom industry, especially the fact that I didn't want to be in customer service, I didn't want to be a secretary. I wanted to be, you know, to quote Hamilton, I wanted to be in the room where it happens. I wanted to move up and be a decision maker. And it was really challenging to do that, both as a woman and as someone without formal education.
Right.
Super challenging. Also a really young mother with, at the time, a disabled husband. And so I had a lot of personal obligations as well. And so trying to find that work-life balance was super challenging. In fact, I would say that I really screwed that up early on in my career. I focused more on work than I did on life. It helped me with my career, but at what cost? You know, and it wasn't until much later in life that I realized how important that balance is. But it was really challenging. Also, my temper. I have that typical, that stereotypical Irish redhead temper. I had a short fuse. I would always get just really indignant. I mean, you might remember with our old director, it was so funny because while I learned the most from him about business, we fought like cats and dogs.
Did you learn this from him?
I have that everywhere. That is so funny, Christa. I still say that all the time. You know, I'm so grateful to him for that. But we fought like cats and dogs because he would just irritate me that he couldn't just do it my way. Like, just do it the way I want to do it. He would get irritated with me for not just doing it the way he wanted to do it. So it wasn't until I learned to temper my temper, if you will, that it allowed me to open up and be more receptive to other ideas and change and opportunities. But my biggest obstacles were honestly self-inflicted. I feel like a lot of the obstacles that were thrown before me, I could overcome those. Those were nothing. Again, I was the tell me I can't and stand aside and watch you do it.
Right. My
obstacles were self-inflicted. I suffered greatly from imposter syndrome. I still do today, even though I've accomplished so much and I'm where I am. It's quite challenging. We beat up on ourselves, and I think that you heard that saying, you're your own worst enemy, or you're your toughest critic. All of those things, it's so true for so many of us. And I found that all of my biggest obstacles were self-inflicted. I'm like, oh, if I had just known, if I had just believed in myself, or if I had just not blown up at this situation or taken a step back and thought about it more, I wouldn't have had that situation. But I've been really fortunate that I've learned from those mistakes. And so I look at all of those obstacles, challenges, failures, etc., as a win. You've seen me post, I never lose, I either learn or I win.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the same. And so, that's how I've handled those challenges. I've had some doozies. I mean, I've really screwed up in the past. And again, self-inflicted. And I just take time to reflect on that. I don't dwell on it, but I take time to reflect on it.
That's a good point.
What could I have done? And then it's not a failure. It's the only way I can get through it is if I look at something, and even if it's just something minor, what did I learn from this, and how do I keep from doing it again? I will say I don't make the same mistake twice, but I still make a lot of mistakes, and it's okay. And I try to teach my kids that, and I didn't always do that as a mom early on. I wanted, we want to put our best foot forward. I wanted my kids to be well-dressed, well-groomed, don't get the ketchup on your face when you're eating, all of those crazy things. And now that I'm an adult, my 4 kids are grown, I'm like, you know what, that's also important. Let them make the mistakes. Let them learn from those mistakes and just be there to dust them off when they pick themselves up. And I think, the biggest challenge is we're self-inflicted, because if you look at me, a girl growing up on the wrong side of the tracks, living in a trailer park in Cheyenne, Wyoming, with no education, no guidance on how to get where I am, and I work for the greatest company on the planet. I travel and I get to meet amazing people and do incredible things, and I get to be impactful and make a difference in my community. I think that would have never happened if I had just sat back, or if I had accepted that, I'm not allowed to do that. That's not my destiny. And so I think, again, just overcoming those hurdles and learning from my mistakes are what allowed me to get here.
I love it. I love it. And you said something that really was key, is you reflect on things, but you don't dwell on things. That's huge. Another lesson that I've learned from you long ago, and those are the kinds of lessons that just stick in the back of your head. You use them day in, day out, but they really don't. You have to regurgitate it. It doesn't come out. You know what I mean? That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. Julie, my last question for you is, when we put on our spectacles, our Julie tinted sunglasses, what does the world look like to you?
Oh boy, that almost changes as much as my vision of myself changes daily. I'll be honest, right now the world's a very scary place for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. Without getting really political, I have friends who in the LGBTQ community who are scared about what RBG's death may mean for them. Mm-hmm. I know women like myself who look to her and to Sandra Day O'Connor and other women, first women, are saddened because we see all of the things that they helped us obtain, and we're wondering who's going to be the next RBG, who's going to take us to that next level. My answer to that is we are. You and me and every other person out there, we're the next.
We carry the torch.
Our response. Exactly. And it's not just in America that things are scary. I mean, we have COVID. That's around the world right now. That my friends in Europe who thought they were coming out of everything are now suddenly seeing a second wave. So they're stressed and concerned about that. Politics are ugly all over the world. It's not just here in America. We have the Amazon is on fire again. We have just a lot of divisiveness and ugliness and hate in the world. It feels like no time in my short 50 years that I've ever seen before or experienced before. But what I know is that because of the travels I've had and the people I visited and the communities I've spent time in, I know we'll get through it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is a really short amount of time in our history. And when you look at the history of the world, 2020 will just be a blip in a history book somewhere. It won't even be a full chapter, I think.
I hope not.
It's just, amen. Amen. I believe in the resilience of people and human strength. And, I look at, like, when I went to Cuba, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw people living in extreme poverty and under an oppressive regime, but so incredibly resilient and open and welcoming, and they hadn't let it harden their spirit and their soul. And I believe that that's a human nature across the board, and that we will come out of this, whether it's next year or 5 years or 10 years from now, the world will be a better place. We're going to learn the lessons of 2020. We're going to learn about how to handle a pandemic. We're going to learn how to have civil discourse, perhaps, again, and we're going to come out of it on top. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of patience, understanding, and it's going to take a lot of love and forgiveness. And I think but I think love and forgiveness is going to be the hardest challenge that we see coming out of all of this, because people are saying some really hurtful things right now because they're scared, and or they just feel really strongly about their position. And it's so easy to be a keyboard warrior when you don't have to sit face to face with somebody and share opinions, and get really nasty on social media and things like that. And I believe we'll get past it. I believe that when people take a step back and they realize how toxic they have become, we've all become in a way, and we realize, wait, this is the person I loved last year, or this is the person I cared about before the election, before mask mandates or social distancing and all of that. This was my family. These were my neighbors, and we'll come back together. I think it's going to take time. It's scary for a lot of people. Like I said, it's not impossible. It's not insurmountable. I believe in the human spirit, and that's what keeps me going. I know we'll get through it. And I believe there's a future for our kids and our grandkids and everybody else. It's just, and maybe I'm just being naive. I don't think so, but maybe I think our forefathers and our ancestors, it laid the foundation for us, and we have to go back to the believing in ourselves and in other human spirit. I saw a meme on Facebook, not a meme, but a post today that said, I used to talk about my rights. It's my right to do this, or it's my right to do that. And I recently changed my viewpoint, and I don't look at it as it's my right to do something. I look about what's my obligation. It's my obligation to do X, Y, or Z. And when you take that perspective and you take that viewpoint, you really start to change you start to put others first, or you start to put community first. You start to think about, as a human being, as an American citizen, or as a woman, as a mom, as a teacher, or whatever, my obligation is to create a better place for the future. Or my obligation is to vote. My obligation is to speak out against things I don't support. So rather than, it's my right, and so I'm going to be all about me, me, me. And I think that we focus too much right now on our rights and me, 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 rather than it's my obligation. It's my obligation to leave the world better than I found it. And I think if we all sort of take that approach, we'll get through it a lot faster.
Wow, lovely, beautifully said. And you're right, looking at what our rights are, what our privileges are, and you're right, changing that into an obligation totally changes the game. We're all here for a certain reason. We're all here to serve a purpose. And the only way things are going to change or happen is if we get involved and we make them change or happen. And some people in our eyes don't look like they have a lot of love, but when you take a step back and actually look at their situation, their passion is just as great as our passion. We might just not be on the same page in the same book, but we're all moving forward. So that's awesome, Julie. I love it. That's it for the three big questions, and I couldn't thank you more for joining me, and thank you again. You have to know, and I'm sure you do, but you have to know you're my Wonder Woman, and I am sure I'm not the only person who you have helped grow, whether you meant to help us or not, just by shining your light and being who you are. Imagine how many other people reflect back on Julie Patrick and say thank you. Pretty
Thank
awesome
you so
stuff.
much. I feel so privileged to know you and to know Tosh. Like, I love watching her grow and her kids and you and the kids and David. I'm so thrilled and so proud of everything. I wish I could take credit for it, Christa, but it's all you. And I'm so honored that you think of me that way and that you wanted to include me in your series here. And I'm so blessed to have people like you in my life. And just keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference.
Ditto, sister, ditto. So everybody, thank you so much for spending this time with Julie Patrick and myself on Cafe con Christa. And I'm hoping that you are enjoying the conversation, and read up on the blurb and follow Julie on her Google career, on her life career. She is the most raw person you will ever follow on social media, and you will love her just as much as I do. So thank you guys so much for your time, Julie. Thank you. And that concludes Cafe con Christa for the week.